Before Call of Duty was nothing more than Nicki Minaj mowing down operators while Homelander and a Space Marine watched from the distance, the series was known for its realism and engaging campaigns. Across 21 mainline games, there have been countless campaigns, either set in the heart of World War II, the jungles of Vietnam, or the vastness of space. Each of these games, while primarily presenting a multiplayer-first mentality, on occasion created some of the most memorable and engaging stories in video games that resonated with countless players. But all of these stories are not created equal, as only a handful of these campaigns are regarded as the best or even perfect. After scanning through countless posts, top 10 articles, and videos, I've compiled a list of the top 6 most beloved Call of Duty campaigns of all time. In this video, I will briefly summarize the story of each of these 6 titles, not going into too much detail because I'm going to assume you've played these games already, and then break them down in their base components and themes in order to create a list of commonalities and traits that make the perfect Call of Duty campaign. A radical leader, Khalid al-Assad, overthrows a Middle Eastern government, sparking global conflict with the support of Russian ultranationalist Imran Zakhaev. The player controls Sergeant Soap McTavish, a British SAS recruit, and US Marine Sergeant Paul Jackson in various missions to stop these rising threats. Eventually, al-Assad detonates a nuclear bomb, killing thousands, including Jackson. After capturing al-Assad, SAS Captain Price reveals that Zakhaev is the true mastermind, leading to a flashback of a failed assassination attempt on Zakhaev years prior. The SAS and US Marines, alongside Russian loyalists, race to stop Zakhaev from launching nuclear missiles. They prevent one strike aimed at the US and, after a high-speed chase, kill Zakhaev in the final confrontation. Picking up with Russia in turmoil following Zakhaev's death, his lieutenant Vladimir Makarov begins a campaign of terror, resulting in World War III, where the US and Russia clash after Makarov frames the US for a massacre in Moscow, leading to a Russian invasion of the US. Meanwhile, Task Force 141, led by Captain Price and Soap, hunts for Makarov, but is betrayed by General Shepard, who seeks revenge for his past losses. The final mission focuses on Price and Soap taking down Shepard, who masterminded this war for personal glory. After a brutal chase and confrontation, they kill Shepard, but remain fugitives as the game closes with the world on the brink of further chaos. Set in World War II, the campaign covers 2 major fronts: the US Marines fighting the Japanese in the Pacific, and the Soviet Union pushing back the Nazis in Europe. Private Miller of the US Marines participates in key battles such as the Battle of Peleliu and Okinawa, while the Soviet campaign follows Dmitry Petrenko and Sergeant Reznov in a revenge-fueled push through Stalingrad to the fall of Berlin. The Soviet story culminates with Dmitry raising the Soviet flag over the Reichstag, symbolizing the defeat of Nazi Germany. CIA operative Alex Mason is captured during a failed assassination attempt on Fidel Castro, later becoming entangled in Soviet General Dragovich's plot involving the deadly Nova 6 gas. Brainwashed during his imprisonment, Mason is haunted by visions of his fellow prisoner, Viktor Reznov. Over time, it's revealed that Mason's memories have been manipulated to turn him into a sleeper agent. The game alternates between Mason's flashbacks and his missions to stop Nova 6. Ultimately, it's revealed that Reznov was a figment of Mason's mind, and Mason's program memories drive him to stop Dragovich's plot. The game closes with the implication that Mason may have been involved in JFK's assassination. This campaign shifts between 2 timelines: the Cold War of the 1980s and a near-future conflict in 2025. The 1980s follows Alex Mason and Frank Woods as they pursue Raul Menendez, an arms dealer with a personal vendetta against the West, whose motivations are driven by the death of his sister, Josefina, during a raid led by Woods. In 2025, Menendez launches cyber attacks aiming to pit the US and China against one another. David Mason, Alex's son, pursues Menendez. However, the game's branching storyline leads to multiple possible endings, depending on player choices, resulting in the capture or killing of Menendez, and as of making this video, none of the endings have been confirmed as canon. Set in a distant future where Earth's resources are nearly depleted, humanity has begun to colonize the solar system. The Settlement Defense Front, or the SDF, a fascist military group from Mars, wages war against Earth and its governing body, the United Nations Space Alliance, or UNSA. Playing as Lieutenant Nick Reyes, he becomes the captain of the warship Retribution after a devastating SDF surprise attack led by Admiral Salen Koch. Reyes and his crew fight back against the SDF through a series of space and ground missions, aiming to stop their plan to destroy Earth's remaining fleet. The game features large-scale space battles, zero-gravity combat, and missions on various planets and moons. Throughout the campaign, Reyes faces heavy losses and moral dilemmas, including the sacrifices required to protect Earth. The game concludes with a final mission to disable a superweapon on an SDF flagship, resulting in success, but Reyes sadly dying in the process. And those, according to research, are the top Call of Duty campaigns. So let's break them down into key themes and see if we can discern any commonalities. Many of these campaigns deal with moral ambiguity, where the good guys aren't always clearly defined. The line between heroism and villainy is often blurred, adding depth to the narrative. There is also a recurring motif in the concept of betrayal by allies or higher authorities. This creates an emotional gut punch and fuels the motivation for revenge or justice in many stories. Most campaigns are grounded in real-world conflicts or plausible future conflicts, such as modern terrorism, geopolitical tensions, or Cold War paranoia. Even when futuristic, the narrative remains close to modern concerns, with many of these stories being deeply personal for the main characters, and more often than not, revolve around a desire for revenge or justice. Several of these campaigns also delve into the psychological effects of war on soldiers. This is particularly evident in Black Ops with brainwashing and memory manipulation, and in Infinite Warfare, where the mental strain of leadership and the weight of survival is brought to the forefront. Additionally, these campaigns often switch between characters or factions, giving players a broader understanding of the conflict and creating a sense of global scale. It also heightens the tension by showing different sides of the same war, and the stakes in these campaigns are consistently global, often threatening the world or significant parts of it. These stories involve a fight not just for personal survival, but for the survival of nations or the world itself. Signature moments in these campaigns are further defined by high-stakes, unforgettable set pieces, like the nuclear bomb explosion in Modern Warfare or the brainwashing twist in Black Ops. These cinematic sequences are memorable and create emotional resonance. So in the end, what makes a perfect Call of Duty campaign? When examining the themes and commonalities of these top Call of Duty campaigns, we could summarize it like this. They all have moral complexity and ambiguity, themes of betrayal and deception, realism mixed with fiction, an emphasis on personal vendettas or revenge, multiple perspectives, high-stakes set pieces and cinematic moments, global or galactic conflicts and large-scale consequences, and psychological themes and character development. When you compare the worst-rated Call of Duty campaigns, like Vanguard, Black Ops 3, or Modern Warfare 3, 2023, against this list, they are either lacking in most, if not all of these positive campaign commonalities. Often these campaigns fail to fully explore the moral complexity or ambiguity that makes the best stories so engaging. Instead, they lean on simplistic, black and white portrayals of good and evil, missing the nuance that creates compelling character arcs and emotional investment. Similarly, betrayal and deception, which adds tension and emotional weight in the higher-rated campaigns, are either absent or underdeveloped. Without these elements, the stakes often feel lower, and the characters lack the personal motivations that drive the story forward. The absence of impactful set pieces or memorable moments can also make these campaigns feel forgettable, offering little in terms of cinematic or emotional resonance. Not only that, but they typically lack psychological depth or character development, which means players aren't given the same opportunity to connect with the protagonist's struggles, leaving these campaigns feeling hollow in comparison to their more successful counterparts. Despite these themes and narrative commonalities, above all else, I'd argue one of the key components that makes a perfect Call of Duty campaign are the characters and villains. Now, not every game I listed has perfect villains, Infinite Warfare and World at War, for example, but their lack of engaging villains leaves room for engaging heroes and side characters. Every single one of these games have extremely notable characters. Price, Soap, Ghost, Reznov, Mason, Woods, Menendez, Ethan, and Reyes all are insanely memorable characters. They all have distinct personalities and arcs that make them stand out in their respective games. These characters are not just tools to move the plot forward, they embody the emotional and thematic core of each campaign. For example, Price's unyielding sense of duty and Reznov's drive for vengeance elevate their stories beyond typical military shooters. Even in a futuristic setting like Infinite Warfare, characters like Ethan, despite not being one, brings a human element that resonates with players. And back to villains, while they are not always well developed, they play an equally crucial role in shaping the narrative. The best Call of Duty antagonists are not just opposing forces, but ideologically complex figures that challenge the heroes on a deeper level. Menendez, for instance, is driven by personal loss and a desire to overthrow the global powers that wronged him, making him a nuanced and tragic villain. Even though Infinite Warfare's Salen Koch isn't as memorable, his cold and calculated nature still serves as a perfect foil to Reyes' passion and determination. In campaigns where the villains are lacking, dissecting, the focus often shifts to the camaraderie and personal sacrifices of the protagonists. Whether it's Mason's unraveling mental state or Ethan's surprising sense of humanity, the relationships and growth of the main characters become the driving force of these campaigns. Ultimately, the strength of Call of Duty campaigns lies in their ability to weave together memorable characters, high-stakes conflicts, and engaging narratives. When done right, given the proper care and development time, these stories create a perfect blend of action, emotion, and character development that turns a good campaign into a great one, creating experiences that stick with the player long after the credits roll.